Hey fly tiers, Darren here. Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be taking on a variation of the Pheasant Tail Nymph, and this is a hotspot version of, I guess, the American style pheasant tail. There's been quite a bit of evolution since the inception of this fly pattern from Frank Sawyer, and his simplified skinny version has been changed a multitude of times. It's rivaled maybe only by something like a woolly bugger, but it's quite an effective fly, and I've caught many trout, whitefish, grayling, and other species like mooneye and perch on this as well. So it's been quite a productive fly for me. I definitely like the orange version the best, but I also have tried it with colors of chartreuse, red, and yellow, which also have done fairly well. So let's have a look at the material list for this and get started. Alright, let's get a fresh hook in the vise. Today I'm using a Mustad S82-3906B, and this is the size 10 that I'm using for the demonstration, and I've got a 3.2 millimeter copper brass bead on there. Alright, so we're just going to start with some 6/0 orange uni thread, and this is going to form our hotspot. So in the past, I've done this with dubbing or floss, but I find just using the thread kind of simplifies the process. So we're going to take about 10 to 15 pheasant tail fibers, and we'll just pull those off the stem of the feather. And I'm going to measure the shank length, so that's from the point where it starts to bend to the eye, and I'm going to use that as my guide for the length of the tail. We'll just secure that on top of the hook shank with a few wraps, and we'll want to keep those wraps close together, touching, because this is actually our hotspot right here. We'll wind the thread up, and we're going to take a piece of fine copper wire, and we'll tie that in along the shank close to us. You see that tag end? You can fold that back if you wish, or you can just simply put a few extra wraps of thread over there. It's not in immediate danger of being pulled out, but if you want some extra insurance, just fold that back. Alright, I'm going to switch threads, and I'm just going to put on an 6/0 UTC. So I just want to make sure that I've got the orange secured there, and then we'll snip off the orange and the tag end of the olive there. Alright, now we can form the body. Just clean that up a little bit. So you can build up the underbody a little bit if you like with a few extra wraps of thread. So we're just going to grasp all of the pheasant tail together, and we're just going to wrap it around. When you get down to the shorter ends, just use your finger in behind just to support that so it doesn't come unwrapped. And then we'll just tie those off. And now we're going to counter wrap with the fine copper wire. So you want to just wrap in the opposite direction of the pheasant tail, and that's going to trap all the fibers. And we'll just make sure that we secure that wire down You can cut it if you like, but we're going to helicopter it today. So just make sure that your thread wraps are tight on that wire. And just pull the wire taut and helicopter it a few times and it should pluck off. Alright, we're going to start to make the front end of this fly. So we need a Wingcase, a thorax, and some legs. So for the thorax and the legs, we're going to use some pheasant tail. And we just need a few strands on each side of this bead. So you can tie them in at the same time, or you can split those up and just tie them in a few at a time. Anywhere between 5 and 8 per side should be good. So you just want to secure those against the bead and then take a couple wraps back and then kind of lay the pheasant tail up on the back of the shank, just so it's a little bit easier to form as a wing case. And then we'll do the same on the other side. And you just want to make sure that you've got them measured out to the same length. And if they slip up onto the bead, you just want to make sure that you reposition those so that they're at the side. And if you have a few that get away from you, that's no problem. We can clip those off. So next we're going to take a couple pieces of peacock herl. I'm using a couple strands off of an eye feather. And I just clip the tips of those. And we'll tie them in by the tips, because you got the fluffiest herl on that side. And we'll just add a few wraps. And then what I like to do is just secure it in front of the legs and behind the bead. And then pull it forward just to lock it in place. And that also helps split the legs on each side. And now we'll just pull that pheasant tail forward, and that'll really cement in the separation between the legs. You can see this one's split. It's not a big problem there, but try and get them as close together as we can. We'll add a couple wraps. And then we'll fold that back, make sure that we have it secured, snip it close to the bead. Then we're going to add a whip finish, and then we'll add some head cement on here. One other thing you can do is, if you do have some type of UV resin, you can add a dab of resin on top of the shell back or on the head, and that will give it some extra durability. But there you go, there's the hot spot Pheasant Tail Nymph beadhead version. Hey fly tyers, thanks for stopping by my fly tying channel and checking out the tutorials. If you're new here and like this sort of thing, why not hit that subscribe button? It's almost as satisfying as catching a fish, except you don't need to put on any waders or travel anywhere. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have anything to say, leave it in the comments below. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.